Hi, welcome to episode 2 of the Shalina Show, where I leave my house, metaphysically at least, and jump on these internet streets and tell you what has been on my mind these past couple of days, this past week. And starting with, oh my gosh, sinners. I know, again, right? Didn't I talk about sinners last week? And isn't everybody talking about sinners? Or maybe they're talking about the Met Gala now. Oh, and the new Pope. That not Catholic. Why would I? But no, I do have thoughts on that. But that's another episode. Anyway, why would I be talking about this again? Haven't we tread over that enough? No, actually we haven't. And I'm going to tell you why. One reason I'm going to share is probably not that original, but we're going to talk about it anyway. And the second one, I'm telling you, I've never seen, and I've read a lot of think pieces, and I've seen a lot of posts. No one has touched this aspect or this layer of it that I've seen. So I'll tell you that after I tell you my first little part, which is I think the reason I was thinking about, like, okay, so why has this hit so hard? Why is this like a cultural phenomenon? Why is everybody talking about it? Why is it like just, I don't know, diffused so quickly through the zeitgeist? And of course, one, because it's an artistic masterpiece, right? Well, we know that it's creative, it's original, it's interesting. It's not just a vampire story. And sorry if that was a spoiler for you. It kind of would have been for me, funny enough, because I don't like get advertisements. There's another, the way I block ads and do things. But anyway, different episode. So I just knew that it was like trending and that everybody was excited about it and people thought it was great. And I didn't know it had anything to do with vampires when I went to see it. So I hope that wasn't a spoiler for you. Later on, there will be something that is definitely a spoiler if you haven't seen it, but I will warn you. But anyway, I wanted to know, like, okay, why does everybody why are we so obsessed with it? And beyond it being a creative masterpiece, I think it's because as a collective, the majority of us, or maybe not the majority, yes, even if it's only a small majority, even if it's only 51% of us, are ready to have these nuanced conversations. Whereas I believe 3 or 4 years ago, definitely 5 and definitely 10 years ago, we would not have been ready. I wouldn't have even been ready for some of these. And when I say I, like, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't mean that. I just mean, like, I consider myself a fairly progressive person. But I have a lot of conservatism. I don't know if I want to say that in me. There's certain things that would have alarmed me, right? Including the critique of monotheistic religion, the very subtle critique of it. That would have alarmed me 10 years ago. How things change. Anyway, that's why I think it was such a hit, is like, these are really tough, kind of scary, visceral conversations and topics that we were never ready to address. And now I think we are. So one, the biggest one, I think, would be the religious aspect. Yeah, right? Like, that, one of those last scenes where there is a recital of the Lord's Prayer, and the fact that it doesn't do anything, it doesn't protect anyone, it doesn't prevent, what's happening from happening. So loaded, so timely, so layered. So layered. And I think especially the Black diaspora, which clearly I'm a part of, is also having these conversations much more openly about, the tools of oppression and the powerful role religion plays. And also, not only is this your religion, but does this religion help you? And okay, that's fair, because I'm not saying that Christianity or other monotheistic religions don't help people or don't provide grace or mercy or change people's lives. But it just shows you, and kind of in that movie too, like, okay, let's have these conversations. Let's be real about, it's a tool of colonization and oppression. And it's not going to help you from things feeding all your energy, or feeding off of your energy and like siphoning from you. And it's not going to stop the oppressors from oppressing you. So there's that. The other thing is just seeing, like, just so viscerally the viciousness and violence of white supremacy. And the other thing, cultural appropriation, and white allies, which I don't know if we would have been able to really have a good conversation about this 10 years ago, especially like the good whites. And what I mean by the good whites is not like, oh, white people aren't good, but like, okay, for instance, the Irish. They were a perfect stand-in for when the oppressed become the oppressors, which, to be fair to the Irish people as a collective, I would say, as history goes, I mean, they kind of caught a stray in this movie, but they were the perfect representation of it. So anyway, as history goes, the Irish typically are just always on the right side of history, and they've really been holding it down as far as pushing back about against what's going on in the Middle East. Like, they have just been fire at the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, the UN. I mean, they've just been ahead of the game of calling a spade a spade. I just had a thought. No, that can't be. I'm like, is that a racist term? I don't know. Anyway, I don't think it is. It's not. So, but even though they have historically been very oppressed, right? I mean, they've been going through it for a good 700-800 years, okay? And oftentimes are fighting back. And listen, I used to get upset when, like, I would see white people talking about the Irish were like, oh, well, we were enslaved too. And I'm like, no, you weren't. You were indentured servants. Like, give me a break. Actually, I did a little bit more research. And no, they had, besides all the other things that happened to them, there was a time period where I'm not laughing. You guys, you have to understand. Sometimes I laugh and things are not funny. Well, people laugh when they're uncomfortable. But anyway, the Irish, they did try to save them too. They did. They tried to literally slave them the way they enslaved Africans, but they died too much because, they're white. They're not going to be able to work in the hot sun the way black people are. And what I mean by that is not like, oh, we're made to labor in the hot sun, but like, if we're coming from hot, humid countries and we're more used to that climate, and they're literally coming from Ireland, they're not going to do so well on the sugar plain or the sugarcane plantation in the Caribbean. Like, they're just not. Like, so I'm not saying they died because they were weak, because they have a fierce fighting spirit, but they died because that was not their climate. They were made for that life. So anyway, they had to just kind of indenture servitude them and do other things to them and stop bringing them as slaves, and they stopped anyway because they weren't profitable because they were dying. So let's just slave Africans. So they have had it rough, is my point, and that's what what's his face? I forgot his name now. Was trying to say is like, no, we've been oppressed too. We're your friends, and that's kind of like how it was in America, right? There were signs that said like, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs, no. The same with Italians. So there's always going to be people who have also been oppressed and who may want to be our allies or an ally, but who then start being oppressive as well. And so that was just a beautiful representation of that. Because let's be for real, like talking about racist Irish cops in Chicago or in Boston or in these other places, like, that's not different. That's different from Irish people in Ireland. I'm talking about people coming here, being oppressed, being treated almost as terribly as black people. And then as they finally become white, and the way you become white, in this world, you're not white just because you're Polish or because, you're Ukrainian or because you're Italian or Irish. No, you become white when you subscribe to white supremacy and you lose your language, your culture, your traditions, or you slough them off as much as you can, and you start mirroring the dominant system, and then you kind of punch down and you distance yourself away from other marginalized people and you become white. So part of the losing your repression and oppression is then to start oppressing other people. And it also showed beautifully how there can be people who really do want to be a part of you, who actually look at you and it's like, oh my God, that song you're singing is beautiful. Like, you have power, you have fire, you have magic, you have fun, you have joy, you have brilliance. I want to be a part of it. But do they really want to be a part of it, or do they just want to suck it away and utilize it for their own devices. So I could go on and on and on. That movie, so much in it. Just you could never stop unpacking that movie. Okay, so to the point finally, 10 minutes later, my God. 2. No one, I haven't seen one person talking about this. Now, this is a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen this movie, you're a huge part is going to be spoiled. Grace and Annie. Now, no one says anything bad about Annie, and I have nothing to say bad about Annie. But I do see things from an interesting perspective when we look at Annie versus Grace and how they responded to a situation, right? So Grace, a lot of think pieces about her and how like she is definitely never ever again invited to the cookout and is the absolute worst. And a lot of valid criticism about her, about how really she's much more transactional. She really is willing to like, you know, sacrifice everybody for her own gain, and how, you know, there's once again marginalized groups who we should be allied to, but instead they aren't willing to stick to the plan where we all can be free and safe. Instead, they just want to act on their own. Okay, so once again, not saying any of that criticism was valid, but I think people are missing something that I found interesting, which is Annie, like, I'm not going to say all Black women, but the Black woman collective in this country has operated as, let's just try to be a safe space for Black men and to be as protective of them and their safety as possible. Now, I saw one man, he's a Black American. I think he's first generation, or either they immigrated here, because he also identifies as Nigerian. And he has a lot of brilliant takes, but there are some takes that I really don't like of his. That's why I don't follow him, because I think he can be a little misogynistic, and he got other issues. But anyway, he said something about how, Black women, although he did like sinners, he was like, their role is to keep Black men from competing against white men. They're a buffer between white men. And I'm like, wait, what is he talking about? Okay, that was an insane take to me. However, I do believe our role in America has been to be more of a protector, in the sense of a mentality sometimes of let's just stay small and safe. Let's stay small and safe. Now, I'm not saying that's what Annie was doing, but what did Annie want to do? Annie said, let's wait it out. Let's wait it out. Even them going off to Chicago, right? Which, of course, no one wants their man going off to another state. They also don't want them engaging in activities that are criminal and dangerous and that may get you killed or hurt, right? And that is a valid thought process for a woman, any woman. However, that's how you make money in America. And what I mean by that is every single immigrant group pretty much did that. The Jews did it when they got here. The Italians did it. The Russians didn't. Yeah, the Russians did it. Black people did it. That's what you do. You come here, you have nothing, and you try to work. I mean, you do. People work. They're working, but you're working for terrible wages. You know what I mean? You're working for pennies on the dollar. And so you need to supplement your income. So you work with your community and you do some gangster type stuff. Now, it's always been different with Black people, because you can't change your skin color, and they don't let Black people transition out of that. Now, they've let people in the rap game do it, right? That has happened in the rap game, where people are like, Jay-Z's example, they're like, yeah, I was singing that dope, had to do what I had to do. And now I'm a billionaire business mogul, married to another billionaire business mogul. But traditionally, that didn't happen. They did not allow that for Black people. For Italians, other groups, you did it. Maybe the first generation, maybe the second generation. By the third and fourth generation, no. Those kids are going to Ivy League schools. That's what those kids are doing. They are getting up out of that criminal world. And now they are moving into the upper classes. So, but once again, with Black men, it's not as easy, and it's more dangerous, and you're going to get the book thrown at you, and no woman really wants their man doing that, right? So it's kind of like, why can't we just stay small and safe, take what is given, even if it's wooden nickels, plantation money, even if it's sharecropping, even if it's this. Let's not reach and grasp for more, because it always comes back to bite us and hurt us. So why do it? Let's just wait. Let's just wait, and then we'll be safe. And hey, I thought Andy's plan was great. Let's wait and we'll be safe. The sun's gonna rise and then they can't get us. They're gonna have to take their butt somewhere in the dark. Grace's thinking is more like, they might not wait around here all night. They might go into town and start turning everybody into vampires. And more specifically, my daughter into a vampire. 1. 2, her mentality is also like, well, what if they just come back? You know what I mean? Like, we're going to need to fight. We're going to need to fight. And that's what she told, I can't remember which one was it. Was it Smoke or Stack? Oh, jeez. Now you should. Weren't you a soldier? Weren't you a soldier? Aren't you a soldier? Now would be a good time. And I believe she was right. Even though Annie was right too, in the sense that, like, most times fighting ends in death. When you're fighting empire, period. It's going to end in death. Black people, for generations, have built. Like, there's been Black Wall Street. There's been beautiful towns all over this country that were thriving, that they purposely put highways through to destroy Black businesses. They are always destroying Black communities, Black business, Black wealth, Black prosperity. Empire needs a permanent underclass. They need it desperately. It can't exist without it. Black people are the easiest target because it's so clear, and so they destroy it every time. And so I do feel bad for all of us, and we're like, it's so exhausting. Why keep building? Why keep fighting when literally every single time they're going to do it? But I also have this other mentality, and that's my strongest mentality, is absolutely effing not. You don't say safe and small as a way of trying to engender some protection. And that's actually what the Black church does, right? That's what Sammy's father was also doing. It's kind of the same, in some ways the same what Annie was doing. If you're in the Black church, if you're in the church, if you can just, subscribe to that religion they gave us and stay here and sharecrop all week. Maybe have a little fun on Saturday, but be back there on Sunday morning to praise the Lord. Then you can stay safe. You'll stay small. Your full song and essence won't be out, but hopefully you'll be safe and they won't lynch you. But see, then what else did we learn, though, when they got turned? What we learned is that was never going to be allowed either. Not with Smoke and Stack. The KKK was coming. They were going to come and kill and take all the money anyway. So Smoke and Stack were not going to be allowed to prosper in the South at that time. They would have been too much a threat of the of the system. Too much of a threat. So they were going to be wiped out. And they probably would have been wiped out because they would have never known. They wouldn't have seen it coming. Now, to their credit, which one was it? Now I'm getting confused if it was Smoke or Stack. I'm going to go with Stack. To his credit, if he would have known they were coming, he would have fought back. Sorry, I just thought my video stopped, right? And he did. And he had already warned the KKK, if I see you in my land, I'm going to shoot you. So it's not like only because Grace said, aren't you a soldier, let's fight, that he fought. But they would have never known they were coming. He probably would have been taken by surprise and would not have been able to wipe all of them out because there would have just been too many. So what is all this long explanation for? I feel like that's a conversation that we're not having yet as a collective, is two different feminine ways to deal with things. Encourage your man to just walk the line so he can live. So he can live, so he can have a long life. Or give him that fire like, yo, let's go. yeah, we're probably not going to make it, but rather die fighting. And that's what Grace's mentality was. Oh, you know what's interesting? I didn't mention this when I was talking about all the people who came and did gangster stuff in this country. I don't know if Asians did. Now, I think later, there's been some later Asian gangs who came later, like in the 19th century and stuff. But when they came here to build the railroads, they had jobs right away, because they were imported here specifically to build railroads. So I don't think they ever, that first wave of Asian immigrants, I don't think they came here and did gangster stuff. But maybe they did. If you know, let me know. Yeah, anyway, so I think it's interesting conversation to be like, okay, are black women protectors and coddlers? And what's the difference between being a protector and being a coddler? I don't know. Because really, it's not a woman's job to protect men or be a buffer for men. And I think that's also, as the black collective, a lot of the black woman collective is starting to like learn and realize is that we, one, haven't really been successful at it, and two, it's not the order of things, and that's why we haven't been successful at it, right? So in a lot of like Black Lives Matter marches and different marches, not the civil rights in the 60s, but the ones, you know, the most recent ones, a lot of times you would see like black women kind of on the front lines because the police are much less likely to beat and abuse black women than they are black women or black men. I mean, they're still going to, you know, slightly less likely. And so it's like, okay, well, we put the woman in front. Women aren't supposed to be in front, though. So, I don't know. So you tell me what you think. Speaking of fighting, have you heard of, his name is Ibrahim Traoré. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So I've been following him for about a year. By following him, I just mean I'm kind of like obsessed. He's so cute. He's got this like little dimple thing. Okay, so he is an African leader of a country called Burkina Faso. And he recently has taken the internet and the black diaspora by storm. Why? Because he is standing up to colonialism and colonization and basically the white Western world. And he's doing a fantastic job at it. And now the Americans, the American Empire and the French Empire is truly after him. So he, I would say, we're going to say it accurately, he did seize power of this country a couple years ago. Now, and by that I mean there was a coup. Now, his coup was backed by the people, and that's why there hasn't been a coup since. And the people that they ousted were very corrupt and have done nothing for the country. In addition, they have been flooded by jihadist terrorists who have overtaken 40% of their, like, they were controlling like 40% of their country. And so him and a military-backed coup kind of took over, and now he's the acting president and has been since 2022, I think. And he's young. He's like 36, 37 years old. So the reason why he's on everybody's radar in America, not everybody, but many people in America, is because a couple weeks ago, there was a Senate hearing, and an American, I don't think he's a general. No, he is a general. His name is Michael Langley. During a committee hearing, now they prodded him. Now, if you go and look at it, one of the senators prodded him for this response, but he complied, and he said that Ibrahim Traoré was misusing Burkina Faso funds, and that they had substantial gold reserves that needed to be protected. Infuriating. So this man has kicked out the French who, colonized Burkina Faso. I don't remember what the country or the land was called. Actually, I don't remember. It's not about remembering. I don't know. I don't know what it was called back in the 1800s when France colonized them. But they have been poor and dependent since then. And even though they won their so-called independence in the 60s from France, they still have been under France control and domination in other ways, including they have been made to keep their gold a lot of their gold reserves literally in France. They don't even keep them in Africa. They keep them in France. They're made to use the franc. They are made to use some system called the ECOWA or something. It's some French banking system. There's been a lot of military presence from France until Ibrahim Traoré kicked them out. I think a year ago, maybe, because they were supposed to be helping against the terrorists that took over so much of their land, but they didn't help that much. Nothing was really improved. So Ibrahim Traoré was like, get out. So in the meantime, in the 2 or 3 years that he's been the president, he has built a ton of roads. Okay, so he bought, you see these pictures of people, of these leaders, and they have all these cars. And you're like, what is going on? Why do you need 100 cars or 400 cars? Like, what is that mentality? He bought like 400 tractors. And he started building roads. He has rejected all of these terrible seeds that, USAID and all these other conglomerates try to give, these crappy Monsanto seeds that are death seeds, basically. He's like, no, none of that. He wants food sovereignty. I don't know if it was the Saudis. I might be getting this wrong. I think it was the Saudis, because Burkina Faso, I believe, is a majority Muslim country, or has a big Muslim population. So the Saudis are one of the other Middle Eastern countries who's like, hey, we can help you. We'd like to build you 100 mosques. And he's like, yeah, we don't need that right now. We can connect to Allah, and pray 5 times a day from wherever and from the mosques. Maybe not these ornate, beautiful, gorgeous mosques, but the mosques we already have. What we need is hospitals. Like, he is not for all this jazz. Okay? So he's nationalized one of the largest gold mines in Africa. He has recently, just earlier this week, announced that giving birth to children and things of that healthcare that goes along with that should be free to women. They should not be charged for bringing forth life. He has done so much, that now he's a threat to Western hegemony. And so now they are, they're after him. He's on their radar. I'm going to stitch, if I can, this wonderful clip of him talking about how he feels about that.
Our children will ask us questions. Imagine if in Burkina we refuse to fight, and we accept to submit to live in slavery. Tomorrow our children will grow up. They will ask questions. Were our parents cowards to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it. The coward is afraid. And the imperialists have understood. They try to instill fear in the leaders so that you become cowards. Because when you are a coward, all other vices can arise. They do everything to make us afraid. They come into our palaces. They threaten us directly or with veiled threats. Of course, we respond as we should. They always take examples. They will tell us, Thomas Sankara tried to do it like this, but where is he? He is dead. The Haitian president, he tried to do it like this. Where is he? He is dead. Gaddafi tried like this. Where is he? He is dead. These are the veiled statements made to us to instill fear. And then we also often see some young people trying to follow in the footsteps in a different way. You can hear them say, such a person ruled like this, he has the sepulchre. Such a person ruled like this, he is in prison. All this to try to scare us, to make us cowards. I think they haven't understood something. When we say the homeland or death, we shall overcome, it's not just a phrase, it has its full meaning. We are not afraid and we will never be afraid. We will continue our struggle.
This is the thing too, he's had multiple assassination attempts. The most recent one is, I think they tried to pay one of his colleagues or generals $5 million to assassinate him, and that guy turned around and gave the money to him. So they're after him. Some people say there's been like 27 attempts. Other people say like, no, there's only been like 6 or 7. He's also teamed up with Mali and Niger, and they're trying to form, and they have kind of formed a coalition where they're going to all use like the same currency and have like a gold-backed currency. And he has just ignited all of Africa, honestly, and a lot of the Black diaspora about like the good that he's doing, and the fact that he said he's willing. Like I said, I'm going to try to stitch it. That he understands how dangerous this is. He knows they killed Gaddafi, not because Gaddafi was a dictator. I mean, we got dictators here, there, and everywhere. They killed Gaddafi because he was uniting many African countries to use a different currency, and for it to be gold back. That's why they killed Gaddafi. Africa is poor because the Western countries purposely put in leaders that are despicable and promote despicable leaders and steal all the resources and keep Africa poor. Africa is the richest continent on earth. Period. It's by design. And there's been many African leaders, not many, but enough, who have pushed back, but they all end up in the same place. And so that's why leaders probably stop doing it. But he says, nah, you're going to have to do what you have to do, but I'm going to build roads for my people. I am going to protect our land and our resources. And we are going to benefit from our gold and our minerals and our resources. I mean, he's threatened to cancel international mining licenses, which he should. So the reason why everybody got upset when they trotted Michael Langley out at this Senate committee hearing so he could talk about how Burkina Faso is a threat to American security, can you imagine? Is because they're slowly trying to build a case and they're propagandizing the people for if there's any sort of deployment over there, or if we have to go over there for something, we have to go see about things. And it might not happen this year or next year or whatever. Sometimes these are 18, 3, 4, 6 years in advance. So they got to start doing the little breadcrumbs of like, oh, that's a bad one. He's a dictator. He's a this. He's a that. We got to get rid of him. He's a terrorist. I think they did call him a terrorist. Can you imagine someone whose people literally love him, whose inner circle loves him so much that $5 million hasn't done it? They've tried so hard to kill him. And instead of actually using diplomatic channels and trying to talk to him and work with him, that's what they do. They just want to disparage him. Now, some people say, oh, he's working with Russia. He is not working with Russia. It's fairly recent development. Why would he continue to work with France? What have they done for them? They're over there still with like no roads. And France got all their gold. It's terrible. And then they're like, oh, and and that Michael Langley said, oh, and they're working a lot with the Chinese and it's a threat because, the Chinese Communist Party. Who appointed America the rulers of the world is what I want to know. Who gave us the moral high ground that we can just go around telling other people what to do? Now, this is the part that is very hard, is that can you guess, if you don't know and if you have not seen him, what Michael Langley looks like? What his, not nationality, as we know he's American, what his ethnicity is. Of course, he's a black man. That's one of Empire's favorite tools. They send a face that looks like yours to dominate and oppress you. They give you diversity just so the diversity can do their diabolical deeds. Like it's a black woman who was, I don't remember her exact title, but who voted on behalf of the United States, even though all the rest of the world voted. I mean, there were like 2 other countries, I think, but at the UN for a ceasefire, it was a black woman who voted no. Of course. So we have to definitely get over this mentality that, oh, because there's a black person or an Asian person or a woman in this role, in this leadership role, now they'll be better. You're not better just because you come from a community that was marginalized or vulnerable. That doesn't make you better. You're only better if you don't subscribe to the tools of Empire and you actually live your values. That's what makes you better. So you know I'm a big fan. I'm like, the mean mommy matriarchy is coming. Mean mommy matriarchy. It's coming. It's coming fast. It's in our lifetime. But the mean mommy matriarchy isn't just like women lead. What kind of women? Not women like Hillary Clinton's like, I came, I saw, he died, we laughed, or whatever she said about Gaddafi. You know, not war-mongering women. Not women who are handmaidens and, you know, foot soldiers for fascism and ridiculousness and empire and BS. Not those type of women. You don't need them. This is just a man in a skirt. If you don't have principles of the divine feminine, just because you have a vagina doesn't mean you're fit to lead. My God, what is this? So yeah, it'll be your own people, your own kind that they trot out against you. Oh, I'll tell you this. Book recommendations. Where did my book go? USAID and things like that. So one of the other things a lot of these leaders are doing is they don't want aid anymore from Americans or Western countries because it comes with these dirty little strings attached that actually harm these countries in the long run. Now, if you knew me in my 20s and even into my 30s, such an idealistic do-gooder type. Like, I only wanted to work for nonprofit organizations. I wanted to do good. I remember being 20 and like knowing all about the World Economic Forum and being like, one day I'm gonna be there. I'll be doing great research or this great work, and I'm gonna make a difference. So cute. But it wasn't until I read this book. Where did it go? Confessions of an Economic Hitman, Jackals, and the Truth About Global Corruption. No, I got that all bungled. Do you know why? It's the wrong book. Look at you guys. I was talking about the wrong book. I'm a mess. Okay, this man, his name is John Perkins. He should be so happy to be alive. I'm so surprised that they haven't him yet because he, oh Lord, he has given us all so much great information. His first book, New York Times bestseller, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. That's when I learned all about the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, the USAID, the other one, what was that other one? The IMF. I can't remember, but that cured me of thinking these large, huge NGOs called non-government organizations were doing good. Instead, they're not doing good. They're tools of the oppressor. So if you read this book, which is The Secret History of the American Empire, Economic Hitman, Jackals, and the Truth About Global Corruption by John Perkins, you are in for an amazing, eye-opening read. You can also read his other book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which I don't know where that is because I got the wrong book. But anyway, there's a lot of really, really good people trying their best, but they're part of very, very corrupt systems that gotta go. Just what it is. They gotta go. That's all I have to say about any of this. I think that's it. Yeah. Oh, look, I have a shirt. It's called Remember Who You Are. That's the shirt I'm wearing today. First time I wore it. It's got black stuff from my sweater all over it, but that's my message to you today. Remember who you are. That's the most important thing you can do. Remember who you are. And I am betting that if you are here on Earth, then you are not here for this BS. That you incarnated here to be part of a new world that's coming fast and not of this old BS. So, remember who you are. That's it. Bye.